Hello there! Welcome back everyone to Void Dwarf Studios and today's episode. Today we are going to be looking at Age of Sigmar and the Stormcast Eternals. The warriors of the God King Sigmar and the poster boys for the game, really. Now, I'm going to keep this similar to the Nighthaunt video I made. I'm going to keep this relatively brief because I'm going to give it in small chunks, try and stay on the point, try not to ramble, all that kind of good stuff. And I'm just going to start off with what a Stormcast is. And then we'll go a bit more in other episodes into their history, we'll go into what they're currently doing, and yeah, we shall take it from there. So, what is a Stormcast Eternal? I mean, if you want me to really wrap this up quickly, then a Stormcast is a reborn human created by Sigmar to fight chaos. Done and dusted. No? Oh, okay, well let's give you a little bit more flavour then. With the raw power of Azure crackling through their veins, these are demigods of battle. Far stronger, tougher than any human, and clad in Sigmarite, a magical living metal mined from Malus, the big planet that used to be the world that was, and made into their forms of arms and armour. Yeah, Stormcast Eternals are superior to humans in every way, shape and form. And they are only humans. Sigmar really is the god of humans. He is the one who protects them, he is the one who tries to guide them, and he is the one who cares most about what happens to humanity. Stormcast recruitment is actually pretty straightforward, well, relatively speaking. Originally, when Sigmar had to close his gates because Chaos were taking over everything, he realised he needed a better kind of warrior, because he remembered how badly these fights tended to go in the world that was, and he really wished he had something a bit more powerful on his side. And he realised that Chaos empowered its followers to make them stronger, so clearly he needed to do the same thing. He plucked people who were on the verge of death, who were heroic or had done heroic deeds in his name or just in the defence of others, and he brought them to his city of Azurheim. There, he reforged them in the Soul Forge. Now, we're not 100% sure what happens to someone put into the Soul Forge, but recent books have given us a little bit more information. The soul is tested to see if it is worthy of becoming a Stormcast, and then eventually they are placed on the Anvil of Apotheosis, where the soul is broken down and made brand new, and then placed into the Soul Forge where they become Stormcast. All we know is that their soul, upon death, is taken by Sigmar and placed into the Forge, where he purifies them, breaks them apart, and reforges them into the Stormcast. They appear to have the majority of their memories intact. They know who they are, they know who they were, they know what happened to them, but they're now something different, something more, and once they leave the Soul Forge, they are trained and join one of the chapters to specialise in a particular theatre of war. These are also known as Storm Hosts. We don't know exactly how many there are, but each one of them is an army in its own right. The most famous of which are the Hammers of Sigmar, based on the little model that I painted in a previous video. They are trained in the Gladiatorium by various weapons masters and instructors, where they are taught the art of combat. Any that are struck down in the Gladiatorium are risen again in the Soul Forge and then sent back out again. In this way, the souls literally don't die. Every time a Stormcast dies, they go back to the Soul Forge, are remade and come back out again. So it doesn't matter how much you might have sucked at combat in the beginning, you will eventually get good after you've, died enough times. You start figuring out how not to die. Once they've completed their training, that is when they are equipped with their various specialised weapons and armour made from the Sigmarite I mentioned earlier. This is one of the greatest strengths of the Stormcast Eternals. Because they cannot really die, they are constantly being reforged and put back into the battle, Chaos can't kill them in the traditional sense. You have to destroy the soul before it gets back to Sigmar, which is, easier said than done. Nagash is aware of this, and it really irritates him, because as far as he's concerned, dead souls, belong to him. So he wants to know how Sigmar's managed to get away with this, and we're not entirely sure how he's done it yet, but at the moment it looks like Stormcast can always be revived no matter how many times they die. However, Stormcast, the more they die, the less of their humanity they retain. The process isn't perfect, so if a Stormcast dies too many times, they become more elemental. Their humanity slips away and it's more like a bestial lightning. I was going to say lightning bug, but that doesn't seem fair. They are more of an elemental being. They only care about war, they care less about the people around them. They become more violent, harder to control. They are able to be cast down from Azurheim into the battlefields via Sigmar's lightning, and striking with their own weapons, they're able to initiate small lightning bursts of their own. Depending on your storm host often depends upon where the soul came from. So for example, if your soul came from Shayes, the realm of death, you will often be placed amongst other souls who have come from the same realm, helping to build bonds of camaraderie and fellowship amongst your brothers and sisters. Yes, because the Stormcast are mixed-gendered. There are men and women serving in the Stormcast Eternals. Because when you have a magical reforging forge, physics can go screw itself, and everyone can be as strong as each other, which is pretty neat. A storm host is made up of different conclaves. The conclaves essentially are specializations within the storm host, each one specializing in a particular form of fighting. You have the Angelus Conclave, who are the scouts. These are made up of your Vanguard Raptors, your Vanguard Paladors, and your Hunters. Basically, they go out and find the enemy. That's their job. And because their job is typically to locate the enemy, they tend to have ranged weapons and tend to try and stay out of the worst of the fighting. Not that they can't dish it, it's just that their job is to locate the enemy and report back to another storm host. You have the Justicar Conclave, who are specialising in ranged weapons, and within such a conclave you have the Judicator, who is the standard range combatant with crossbows and bows. You have your Vanguard Raptor, also in this chamber as well as the other one, and your Castigator, basically a massive crossbow with a magical warhead. And they also tend to have Gryph-hounds alongside them. These are your expert range combatants. The Paladin Conclave, who are, they are up front in your face smashing you over the head with a hammer. Paladin Conclaves are the elite warriors of any particular chamber, or Stormhost for that matter. These are the guys you send in for the fiercest fighting, the toughest opponents, and they often tend to surround your battle host leader. They tend to be armed with two-handed hammers, massive axes or spears, or halberds I should say. These guys are your premier Stormcast. You have the Corpescent Conclave, who are specialising in arcane magic, which is pretty much what it sounds like. These are Stormcast who are gifted at bending the power of Azure, so they tend to cast lightning and other kinds of fun effects. The Redeemer Conclave, who form the battle line of pretty much every Stormcast army. Think the dudes with hammers and shields, although they are also often armed with swords. The hammer is not just it's not just a fantastic weapon, it's also more of a symbol. The hammer is the symbol of Sigmar, but that doesn't mean Sigmar is unwilling to use other weapons. Sword and board Stormcast are even more grindy and tough than those with their hammers. Whereas the hammers tend to deal out more damage, your sword and board Stormcast are better at holding a line. These are the guys who take most of the grinding warfare. Then you have the Autonardus Conclave, who bear the cog. This is in reference to their role of machinery in fortresses, and often they are deployed but with artillery batteries. The last, and possibly my favourite of the chambers at the moment, the Extremist Chamber. Have you ever wanted an army that basically has dragons? Stormcasts riding demi-dragons? Then you will love the Extremist Chamber. If you thought a Stormcast was bad enough when he's on foot with a two-handed hammer, stick him on a giant dragon. Wingless, yes, but a dragon nonetheless. The children of Dracothian, or so it is rumoured, have allied themselves with the Stormcast, and are more than willing to go into the battle against Chaos. You get the smaller ones, which are called Dracoffs, and you get a flying dragon, a beautiful, beautiful beastie called a Star Drake. These things are truly monstrous, and you can have an army of these. I love these guys. I think if I was going to collect Stormcast, this is what I'd want to do, although the price tag is pretty damn ridiculous in terms of points and model. But these are gorgeous, and Stardrake alone, I would collect Stormcast for the Stardrake. That thing is an absolute beast, and it's gorgeous. And Stormcast aren't always sent out in armies. Often they're sent out in small groups to achieve particular objectives, such as the Steelheart Champions, led by Liberator Prime Severin Steelheart, who were sent into the magical city of Shadespire. In battlefield conditions, the Stormcast Eternals tend to rely on their very heavy armour, their very heavy weapons, and the ability to outgrind the opponent. They are extraordinarily brave, incredibly tough, and very unlikely to run. They tend to like people to get into a brawling melee. They can do skirmish and guerrilla warfare, but they excel at grinding people down and beating them up. So if you like an army that's covered in gold, well, it doesn't have to be covered in gold. There are many chambers and storm hosts that do not have such shiny armour. But on the whole, Stormcast will always be in heavy armour and with hammers and just smashing people in the face. They're actually a very tough army and quite hard to beat. You can do it, but it requires quite a lot of skill. And they're also a very easy army to play the game with because, well, they're kind of easy mode. I'm not saying it's impossible to beat them, but Stormcast have so many advantages over many armies in Age of Sigmar that they are an easier army to pick up. So if I was to encourage someone to play the game, I would suggest they start with Stormcasts. Just because it's an army of heroes, it's fairly easy to learn, it's fairly straightforward to play with, and you can have a decent level of success. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video around about now, and I think I'm only just about hitting the 10-minute mark. So, yeah, kept this one relatively short for a change. I will go into the Stormcast's history in the next video, and I will catch you all then. Take care, everyone.